Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome back for another week of Tales from the Tavern. I am very excited that you all are here tonight. We've got a great group of people that are here. We have some very newer TTRPG streamers, and we have some veterans that are here, and then there's Wolf's Blood. But seriously, Wolf's Blood has done a lot of work like behind the scenes with some TTRPG stuff, and he's done a few TTRPG streams as well. So we are really focusing on TTRPG streaming tonight. That's where the bulk of our conversation is going to be. So I'd love if you guys in chat have some questions. Feel free to drop them. Wow, I'm starting well. Drop them in chat. And let us know what you want to know about TTRPG streaming, or how people got started, or anything along those lines. We have a few different people with some different skill sets around it, and we're also going to have some of our newer guests, if they have questions for our more seasoned streamers, to give them the chance to ask some of their questions as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let everybody go around and just introduce themselves and tell us a little about who they are and where we can find them on social media. So we're gonna start with Wolf's Blood.
Oh, because of course you are.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's your friendly neighborhood mod. I am Wolf's Blood 2012 or 2012 Wolf's Blood because I was too lazy to reclaim my account because I couldn't remember it from SBC Global days. And you can find me here as one of the moderators for the channel, also over at Mr. Cyclone Jack's channel, who if you're not following, you need to be at this point. And as Linda was saying, I do a lot of background work. I do a lot of audio work. Also do some video work as well. Just looking to hang out and have some fun today.
Yeah, I'm excited that you are here. And next we're gonna go to Kayla.
Hey, so I've been a DM about 15 plus years at this point. Done a lot of conventions and events. I'm currently on Actual Play podcasts. I do freelancing and actually publishing things. I have a blog, all of which you can find at my Linktree with like a million other links to things I do. Have yet to run a live stream, which is why I'm here tonight. Been on a couple. So we'll see what kind of questions we can pull out of these veterans here.
Well, thank you so much. Kayla was one of the people I had put a call out on Twitter, and she happened to respond and said that, yeah, I'd love to come and find out some more. So I'm very excited that you responded, and we're happy to have you here tonight. And next, we're going to go over to Chaotic Stupid.
That's me, Chaotic Stupid. Also Kevin, if that's easier for you to say. But yeah, I'm 27. I've been a DM for about 5 years now. Storyteller for probably 10. And I've done like on and off streaming for about 10 years, but never TTRPGs. So this whole journey that I started is now about 2 months old. But before that, I'd never actually done the TTRPG streaming, which is completely different than anything else that I've ever done. And I'm just completely in love. So I'm very excited to find out, more about how other people do it, and hopefully learn a little bit to still improve mine, because I think I've really realized that it's a constant improvement process, and you just want to do everything better and better and better and better. So that's why I'm here.
You are
Thanks for having me.
Right. I am glad to have you here as well. Chaotic Stupid was another person who managed to track me down on Twitter, and so I'm glad that we were able to connect there as well. So this will be great. The man, the myth, the legend, Ty Burris is here. If you have not seen him DM a game of or storytell, or what's the word that you use for Aether and Steamworks, then you are missing out. He also did all of the overlay art for this stream, which is fantastic. And Ty, I'm going to let you tell the rest.
Hello, everybody. I am Lottie with Star Tyverse. You can catch me on Twitter, DeviantArt, Twitch. It's under RF Chaos. Roll for Chaos, new channel that I'm going to be running some of my own side projects through, and my art that I do on occasions. I have been a GM for the better part of 30 years, and I'm a storyteller, a writer. I created my own TTRPG system, Aether and Steamworks, like she had said, and I actually do run live plays of that as the GM, which some people find interesting because, you have the creator like running with Gygax, right? Not to toot my own horn or anything. Of course, I am an artist, and I do production for TTRPG stuff. This is all my life here, and I hope to make it big in some way so that I can do this as a career full time, all the time, instead of just as a hobby that sometimes makes me money. I think that's the dream for most of us, though, right?
That's very true. David Tilsher says Gary Tygax.
Gary Tygax. All right. Well, thanks, David.
And a lot of people in chat already know him, but the man who basically needs no introduction, Sean.
Hi, everybody. You might know me as the Dungeon Master over at Paradise RPG, which is my actual play TTRPG channel, with some of my friends. We are currently kind of expanding out a little bit more, trying new things, inviting new people onto the channel, particularly for our one-shots in Paradise that we do once a month. I know that Luna's been on one before. But yeah, we do a lot of charity streaming. We do a lot of long-term campaign streaming. Like everyone here, I'm also looking to expand into this world a bit more every day. I haven't dabbled in design yet, but I'm getting there. I'm dipping my toes in the water when it comes to that.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here. And for those of you who don't know me, or for those of you who don't know me very well, I am Gamer Mom Luna. I host this stream, obviously, and I currently play on just one, which is a rapid decrease in the number of TTRPG streams that I'm in right now. But I play on a Wednesday night stream, also on this channel called 50 Shades of Crimson, which is a Pathfinder 1st edition game. And I've been doing TTRPG streaming, gosh, we've got to be getting close to 3 years? Two and a half years? We're getting there. I don't know. The pandemic screwed up all my whole time frame, but it's, yeah, slightly more than 1 and not quite 3. So I'm still personally, like, in the production piece, I'm very much new to it. I didn't start producing our own stuff until we started up this channel, but prior to that I did a lot of behind the scenes stuff on a different channel that has since they've since pulled all of their content off the internet. So yeah, so we've got a little bit of everything. So I guess the first question, I usually throw out the first question, and I've already seen a few come in from chat. So again, chat, the theme tonight, we're really talking about streaming TTRPG content and really any questions that come along with that. I know I saw Nick floating around in chat. I know he has questions. So now's your chance, Nick. Ask away. And if anybody else has questions too, oh, I see that one, Nick. And so I'm going to start off with my first question, and then I'll dive into the ones from chat. So the question that I would like to start in, and for our guests, feel free to just dive in whenever you feel comfortable answering, is what made you want to start streaming TTRPG content?
Shall I go first?
Sure.
All right. Because I that's a question that I always have a great answer to, which is that my players were so amazing that I was thinking people need to see this. You know, I was so proud of them every session. I was like, every game it was getting better and better and better, and I was enjoying it more, they were enjoying it more, and I thought, why are we just sharing this amongst ourselves? Let's share this with everybody. And you know, like I said, I have a bit of a background in streaming, so I was like, hey, I'm gonna put it on my Twitch channel, and that's where we got started, and it's been so much fun, and yeah, every time it still gets better. So that's pretty much where we got started.
Awesome.
Well, for me, I actually hadn't thought about streaming for anything for a long time when the pandemic started to kick up. I mean, I've been doing this now for about 2 years, so it was a little bit before all the nonsense happened, and I was looking for alternative options to take care of myself and my family, and hobby stuff already going on, and I was already starting to write a game, and it turned into a mutual beneficial situation. I met James with Dice Tyrants. I talked to them a bit, and I was like, hey, I want to be on your stream, and I made this game, maybe we could play it on there sometime. He's like, yeah, so let's go do 5e for like 2 years first, and then Anyway, so I hopped on there. I got into a campaign with them and showed my GMing chops and started playing games in front of people and found that it was a lot of fun. There's something about it that makes you feel a little bit like you're doing something special, with everybody, that it's bigger than just sitting at the home table, which can still be very fulfilling, but at the same time, it's like you're part of something more when you're doing it in front of people. You're a TV star. You're on show. You've got people that come in the audience and become fans you don't even know, and then you get to meet them and you get to talk to them, and they're really awesome people as well. And then you see people in the community like these, and it became just from that one little footstep into the pool into a wow, this is really cool. I want to do this more often, and I'm going to start making this a bigger thing I do all the time.
So for me, we've been streaming on Paradise for about a year and a half, and it all started when so Shannon and I, SRoby25 in the chat, most people know who she is. We've been playing in our home game for almost 3 years, I think. Yeah, almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years this summer, and we just loved it so much. Neither of us played D&D when we were younger, even though we would have loved it, or any TTRPG. And there was just one night after a really good session where we stayed up late afterwards, just me, her, and one of our other friends, who we were just talking about, why don't we give this a try? We were just like, if no one watches it, at least we get to play more D&D. And that was kind of our motive when we started. And it was real janky in the beginning. If anyone watches the first episodes of our season 1, it's the audio is all off, and the overlay is very simple, and just grow from there. And a year and a half later, we're still doing it, and we want to do it more and keep. And you're right, the community side of it is what kept us, I think, going. When it was kind of like sometimes it was a little hard. It was like, oh, we don't have too many people watching, or there's a dip in numbers, or getting used to a weekly schedule. And that's the thing I'm most proud of, is that I'm playing D&D once a week now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess as the baby live streamer, for me it was just like a natural progression of things. Like I already do actual play podcasts, which is kind of that like interactive storytelling that you then put out for the community, and live streaming just seems like a way to be more interactive with the audience in that way, like have them affect the game in some way, get their real-time reactions, maybe incorporate their like conspiracies, just like you do with players when they start like chatting and you're like, I wasn't gonna make this a cult of doppelgangers, but now that you said something, I think I am. So it just seemed like a natural progression of all of that, and I love throwing those kinds of things at my players, and we have ridiculous fun that no one believes most of the time from the stories, so that way I will have a record and no one can say it didn't happen.
Those moments when you're like, that is such a great idea, I totally did that. That is absolutely what was actually happening.
Yes, my master plan all along.
I'm still trying to wrap my brain around the fact of Chaotic sitting there saying he was proud of his players. And he enjoyed what they were doing at the table, and he wanted other people to see it.
I stand by that.
I don't think I've ever met a DM that after the first session was like, I hate those people.
I personally embrace chaos though. So when my players do some of the crazy, messed up thing, I had a player straight up shoot people, NPCs in the middle of a street, like in front of everybody else, just boom, take them out, and then they had to deal with some repercussions. It was fun from a GM perspective, going, yeah, well, you had all these plans, and now you just messed them all up in town, and I get to play with that.
That's my favorite moment as a DM or a GM, is when a player says, this might not work, but I think I'm going to try it.
I get a lot of, I think I'm going to try something really crazy right now. And I'm like, yes, do it.
Do it.
Do it.
I'll give you advantage. Do it.
Yes.
Right?
I want to see you try. And then
I'll give you inspiration, not a problem.
you say you want to actively roll on the chaos table. I'm totally down with that.
Right? I would like to do that. I would like to do the thing. I got into TTRPG streaming literally because of a casting call. I had just gone through a divorce. I was married for almost 13 years and had just come out of a divorce and gotten my own place. And my daughter and I were like, sort of readjusting, and I was getting into the like routine of single mom and all of that stuff, and loved playing D&D. But as a result of my divorce, I lost my D&D group. And so I saw this casting call from somebody who was trying to start up a channel. And I was like, I like playing D&D, and streaming can't be that hard. Little did I know. And that was pretty much it from there. I lucked out that me and the rest of the cast clicked immediately. We had a really great chemistry and had a ton of fun, putting together our first show, and subsequently this show used to air on that same channel, and then we brought in a third and eventually a fourth campaign. So we had a stream on our channel 4 nights a week, and we were working on a fifth. And then, life happened, and sort of ideas for directions of the channel, kind of went awry. And so a lot of us ended up saying, well, we don't want to lose this now that we have this great community, that we have met all these amazing people. So we ended up starting up a shared experience channel, and we took this stream and one of the other ones along with us. So that's actually how these two came. We were able to start with 2 shows right off the bat on our channel. But it really was, once I got into it and I was kind of like into the whole idea of streaming and playing in front of a camera, I don't even notice the camera half the time. But like somebody was just saying, a lot of times chat will say something and I'll be like, oh, that gives me an idea. And so on my next turn, I'm going to. And you don't get that when you play at a home table. So in that way, it can be a lot more fun, because just like a GM, when you're a player, it's like, I never would have thought of this otherwise. I never would have thought to use my character in that way. So I love that.
When it comes to, I'm sorry, I'm obviously derailing slightly, but when it comes to people playing behind a camera, have you noticed that there's less like over talking the other players and things like? You're far more cognizant that it's somebody's turn or somebody's speaking. You're at a home table and things kind of devolve into chaos all the time when it comes to people talking over each other.
The other piece of that too is you don't get off track as easily. Like, we have games that devolve into chaos, but it's usually very quick, and then we're right back on track because we know we have this set window of time and we want to get through X amount of the game in that time. So it makes it a lot more different than if we were just playing on some random Saturday afternoon when nobody has any, set time they have to leave or anything like that. And so you end up spending an hour beforehand just shooting the breeze, and then, oh my gosh, what your character just did reminds me of this time. Hey, remember when blah, blah, blah. And so I find that you actually are playing and get to play a lot more frequently, or a lot longer, something along those lines. All right. I'm going to start diving in with some of the questions that have come in from chat. So the first one that we got came from Zealzaddy, and he would like to know any new ideas on preventing people from shuffling when someone loses their connection.
Oh, God.
The bane of all our existence.
Exactly.
So for my channel, I have presets in Streamlabs so that I can have 4 players, 3 players, 5 players, 6 players, however many you need to have. And if you're on a show, set those up as close to in advance as you can. If someone gets knocked out, you drop from 5 down to 4, you switch the camera setup, and then you just move a couple people and you're good. You don't have that I'm halfway inside the camera, or I'm way up here, or I've got 2 eyes that are coming out of 2 camera spots thing that happens.
Yeah, it's really hard to predict too sometimes. But like for on Paradise, we know sometimes when someone's going to have a bad connection. So like one of our players sometimes has to, for work, go, all over the place and stay in like motels or hotels. And we always know when that happens, it's almost guaranteed he's going to drop at least once in the call. So really, I think that's really the only solution I've ever seen is like having preset scenes ready for that.
If you want to have preset scenes that help as well, if you're using Discord, it is from top left to bottom right in alphabetical order by name of the individual in Discord.
Right.
So if you set your cameras in like Streamlabs to camera 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can move those in advance as soon as your Discord call starts by alphabetical order. If someone drops, then you'll be in position.
That's exactly what I do for this stream.
Interesting.
Yep.
We use Zoom, which is a nightmare in and of itself. But what I've done, because it's usually just one player that drops. So what I'll do is I have Zoom on my phone. I'll join the call without being logged in. So there's an additional person in that just says this person's MIA. So it takes up the spot. And then when they rejoin, I leave. So I know that they'll replace that one. So then I don't have to reshuffle the setup again. But yeah, Zoom is not even predictable like Discord, so it's
Discord.
I don't recommend it.
I've found that Zoom is good when you have larger groups of individuals, but Discord happens to have, in general, better clarity and more order to it.
Yeah.
Has anyone checked out Zencaster and their new update that now includes cameras
Really?
for recording and streaming? Yeah.
We do use Zencaster
But
for
we
our
use
audio.
we use Zencaster for all of our actual play podcast sessions, and so they recently added being able to use cameras to their update.
That's cool.
That was smart.
It's interesting.
Very cool.
I got a tip the other day. I haven't checked this out yet, so don't take my word for it. But apparently Skype in a new update is supposed to offer you the ability to load in each camera individually as a source. Like you can lock onto it so it doesn't change when somebody leaves. I don't know if that's true, but I still need to check it out because that would be the ideal solution for me.
That is the ultimate
one-
solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One issue I had with Skype before was that it didn't seem to have a push-to-talk option rather than personally muting over and over again. For me, I have children and they run and scream in the house I'm in all the time. It's like, I can't just leave my channel open. I'm sorry. You'll hear things that make you think maybe people are dying. And suddenly I feel like I'm a bad father because they're dying in the background and I'm staying right here. So,
Yeah, I get that.
but they're not dying. Just to clarify, they're two little boys. They're just
I'm glad we cleared that up. I do think that was a good question though, because that really is the issue that everybody has. So
Yep.
what I've ended up doing on this stream is if we lose somebody and it seems like it's going to be a permanent issue, I have an image that's just I don't want to say it's random because it's not. It was done specifically for our intro video. And so I leave it so you can't see it if all the cameras are being used, but it's if one of the cameras drops, I can quickly bring it back up and move it into that camera slot. So and then just readjust everybody's cameras. It's not a perfect solution. Yeah, kind of like that.
I've got that same thing.
And yeah, so it's basically that same idea of almost having everything locked into position, but at least I have a quick fix.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. So Nick Plays D&D would like to know, big question incoming. How do I run as incredible a stream as both Sean and Ty? No pressure here, guys.
Why don't you answer first? Please, you go first.
Yeah, right. You surround yourself with good people, honestly. People who would, will carry their weight a little bit, will pick up the slack if something has to be done, or if you can't do something, they can do something. Like we have a tremendous producer in Alex who does a lot of our overlay work. He does a lot of our intermission work. He produces the stream. I produce the one shots, but Alex produces all of our Monday night streams, and he puts a lot of work into that, and he just gets really excited about it. So having people who are excited about not just the game, but the stream and the production side is really important. My background is in video production, so I was excited about it from the get-go. I was like, all right, how do we have the best possible video, best possible sound? How do we incorporate what I have? Because I have equipment and whatnot, and just knowing that the other people are excited about improving the stream. And that really is, at the end of the day, it's just everyone should want to succeed, and they should want the stream to succeed and the story to be good. And as long as people are interested in that and are willing to learn new things, you'll be good.
So, from my side, I appreciate that you think that I'm a great storyteller. First off, thank you for that. Mine comes from a lifetime of personal experience, and I'm actually a non-published at the moment author of fantasy stories as well. I've got like 3 of them that someday will become actual books. I do, of course, have the TTRPG on the side. For me, it's really helpful when you know the system in and out, when you know the worlds you're going to be playing in and out. If you want to create a wonderful game, even if you don't know the system you're playing in, if you know your world really, really well, how all the pieces of it move together, how all the players could interact with it, that will help you in developing a story that works. Number 2, when you're writing a story, never make it about you. Never make it about your egoistic idea that this is my story, this is where it's going to go, beginning, middle, end. It is about your players. As a GM, your job is to make sure they have fun. It is not about you. It is about them, and you will feel rewarded when they happen to find that fun, enjoy the experience, be part of your game, and be willing to roll with any punches that show up. If someone has a crazy idea, don't think, well, this is never going to work in my world. And even if somehow they pull it off, I'm just going to pull it out from underneath them because it breaks my system, my story. Roll with it. Change your idea. Suddenly you kill the BBG accidentally by dropping a barrel on him from 1,000 feet. Well, now there's a power vacuum. You need now to come up with a new circumstance that keeps your players interested in moving forward. You always want to be able to do that. That's the biggest advice I have, is just roll with the punches, take the story wherever you're willing to have it go, and enjoy what you do with them.
All right. So the next question, and some of the newer streamers, feel free to piggyback off any of these questions as they come in too. But the next question came from Pat66, and then RPG Apparel followed up with a very similar question. What's the minimum tech requirements that someone would need to stream?
Minimum tech requirements to stream. I don't know system specifications in general, but you're going to want a computer that won't crash on you when you're running multiple things at once, because you have to run not only your streaming equipment and send that out, but you also need to have your whatever, if you're using certain types of virtual tabletops, or if you're using Discord or Zoom or whatever, it needs to be able to open all of those without stuttering all the time. And then having an audio clarity that's okay, that people can hear you, is more important than visual when you're starting.
Yeah. Making sure you have a decent internet connection too, as well, for whoever's going to be hosting the stream itself.
A stable, decent internet connection.
Yeah, because so Alex started our stream, and there was when I started wanting to run my Thursday night show, Relaxing in Paradise, I was doing it at my old apartment, and I had the worst internet of my life. And I tried streaming, and there was such a package loss and such a delay that like what I was saying wasn't happening on stream until like 15 minutes later.
Wow.
And it was broken, and I was like, well, this isn't going to happen until I move out or get better internet. Thankfully now I've got good internet. But yeah, I second all of that. You need to have a system that can run multiple things. 100% audio is key. It's better if people can hear you than if they can see you, especially if you're running a lot of things or you have a lot of people. That's the thing that people are going to connect to most. You know, I forgot the acronym. I learned it in film school. But audio sound is the most important thing, because it's the first thing people will notice is wrong in a situation. They're gonna be okay with slightly off images or lower graphics, but as soon as sound is off, people respond really quickly to that.
We could literally be sitting here right now with just a picture of our face, and that would be fine if you could hear exactly what we're saying, but then you don't get anything.
Yeah, or even if it's just like now that, and suddenly it's like
it drives you nuts, is what that does right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or crackling. Oh my god, crackling.
Yeah, crackling.
But if you ever get a Go XLR, there's a couple of robot settings you can use on it that sound horrible. Don't ever use those.
Yeah.
Then too, another thing a lot of people don't even think about, it's little stuff. Have multiple monitors available and be comfortable with the layout that you have. Know where your stuff is going to be, just to avoid those little delays and those little bits where you're having to listen to that DM or that player having to go, wait a minute, where's that screen at?
Well, that's
have your tools there.
That's another thing too. Some individuals, like when I first started this, the only thing I had was a couple of laptops that I could use. My wife and I both do streaming, and having multiple monitors is amazing. If your system or your equipment won't support multiple monitors because it slows you way down, get used to not being able to see the people you're talking to, so that you can actually keep your stream moving forward with your game, and be okay with that. The other thing that I would recommend: stop looking at yourself all the time.
Yeah,
that's what's happening. You're looking at, and then people can see that you start doing things with your face, and you're like, oh, that looks right. Okay, I'll do that. And then it's
very difficult.
Like, do I look okay? Yes.
Other things to think about, I know we're talking about minimums, and really at the end of the day, minimum, system that can handle the software and decent audio. Like bare minimum, that's all you need. Everything else, you would add that on as you are capable. When video starts to get better, make sure you have a key light that makes, and if you can, have a fill light. If you're going to use a green screen, you might even need to have a backlight. So there's a lot of things that slowly, as you get those foundations in, you can start to pick up, make a little bit better. For us, we always used a battle map, and I had to have good lighting for that. Otherwise, it was a waste of our time because it just had like these grainy, pixelated like minis that I'm enjoying, but no one else is enjoying unless I get decent lighting. And I'm just lucky that I had that equipment already because of my previous experience. So everything you build on top of whatever foundation you create.
That was always the reason why we moved to VTTs, was because we considered over at Dice Tyrants doing, table off to the side, minis and everything set up for people to view. But it's like, well, we don't have the necessary ambient lighting. We don't have multiple cameras to put down and give all the angles to show everything that's happening. So if you can't... It's
really expensive to have a functioning battle map. And I film weddings, so I have a camera that can do it. I have lights that can do it. And I have a setup, but that's not nearly... Very few people have that ready to go.
Some of the cheapest ways to stream for games and things like that can be done basically without any money. Things like Roll20 can help you with that. There's a group out there called RPGs with ERP that do everything on an absolute shoestring budget, and I'd recommend checking them out if you're ever interested in, just because they just do audio. They have some battle maps that come up. They do everything through Discord with conversation with each other. There are ways out there to do it when you don't have a huge amount of capital and a huge amount of resources with your systems and things like that you can use.
Yeah, and there's ways to makeshift things and get them to an adjustable place with just bare minimum necessities. It's not going to be easy, but it can look good. It's the what is the triangle? It's like, I'm forgetting everything from film school. It's like you can only have two. There's three of them. It's
fast, cheap quality.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Fast,
Thank you.
cheap quality.
Thank you. You can only have two. So if you want it to be fast and cheap, it's not going to have any quality. If you want it to be cheap and quality, it's going to take some time. And you can do it if you have the dedication. Like when we first started, I had a janky setup on my dining room table with my laptop on top of my D&D books so that the camera was at the right level. Second camera off to another a second laptop somewhere, and it was a bit messy, but you'll get somewhere where you're feeling comfortable and confident.
Absolutely.
My setup, particularly for this stream, is the most involved actually than it would be for the game when we're playing, because when we do our 50 Shades of Crimson stream, we also use a virtual tabletop. We use Fantasy Grounds, and so I have that open on my secondary monitor because I don't have to look at it all the time. Mostly when we're in combat or if we're moving across the map, I can turn and look at it, and then I can go back to looking at chat or looking at, whatever else I need to be looking at. But for this stream, I was explaining, and I explained this to everybody before we start, I have Discord open on my secondary monitor on my left-hand side, and then on my primary monitor directly in front of me, I have the stream and I have OBS open. And then because I need to keep Discord full screened so that everybody's cameras look right, I actually have my tablet in front of me so that I can have Discord open on that for chat's questions to get fed to me. And that works great. That's all I need. You know, it's a system that works for me. I know where all my stuff is and I can find it. And I don't use my tablet for when we're doing the campaign because I don't need it. I don't need to have Discord blown up full screen on my monitors. And my rig is not new by any stretch of the imagination. I'm in the process of looking at upgrading it right now, but there are components in my computer that are 10 years old. And desperately need an upgrade, but here we are, so you don't need to have top of the line anything. And my lighting, my lighting is $6 clip LED lights from Target and some Christmas lights, and that's it. It is not fancy. I think probably the most expensive technical equipment I own is probably outside of my computer itself is my microphone and my green screen. And my camera, I use a Logitech C920, which is a pretty common one. So,
yeah, lighting is something that's pretty easy to just makeshift really easily out of what you already have.
Yeah.
Or something like a cheap clip-on light. The biggest thing with lighting is just making sure that it's diffused.
Yeah.
So you have a nice even lighting over your face, so that you don't have really harsh shadows.
Folded up pieces of parchment paper, baby.
Parchment paper is exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
As soon as it's not diffused, if it's all direct, you get weird camera effects that occur. People, I know of individuals who use those ring lights right around their camera.
Yeah.
But they may mess up so fast where suddenly you're oversaturated or you're under, or you got to have that ambient light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
It's the first thing that's going to increase your cheap webcam quality is to have decent lighting.
Yeah.
It's going to be compensating hard and lowering the quality to get your lighting to a place that they can actually even see you if you don't have something hitting you.
So before I move on to the next question from chat, I would like to pause for a minute and see if Kayla or Chaotic Stupid have any questions, either out of anything that's come up so far or anything that they want to ask of some of our more veteran people.
I'm good so far. Interesting stuff, but no, I'm pretty much all my questions so far have been answered. So thank you guys so much.
You will find I always have questions. That's just how
Fire
I work.
away, then.
So I know 2 of you use virtual tabletops and 1 of you does the actual battle map. Mm-hmm. When you were first figuring out which one you wanted to do, what made you choose the one you went with for your stream?
Well, I can answer that for us. So currently, with the one show that we have, we're using Fantasy Grounds because that's what the DM already owned all of the material in. So that was sort of a no-brainer, rather than having to go out and buy it all again for another virtual tabletop system, because unfortunately they are not transferable. So because we were carrying that particular game over from one streaming channel to another, we just figured we'll just keep all of that information there. Wolves, I believe you're using a different system for the Star Wars game?
Star Wars is going to be hosted with the Roll20 system, and we're going to be using their maps for our Tuesday show, which is starting in 9 days. Shameless plug.
Right. So that's a whole new game with a different DM than we have on Wednesday nights, and so that one, we're able to have some flexibility and sort of try out what works, what the DMs are more comfortable with. We're not hard and fast, it has to be this one for every stream.
For me, we were looking for options that everybody had access to and things that were going to have a lot of automation for our tabletop. And again, we had the problems where we didn't have the right lighting for us to do battle maps at home or anything like that. We decided to go with Fantasy Grounds primarily because I code and I could code in XML, and I wrote what I needed, the bare minimum, to be able to play my own game in. So when I started making streams for that, seem to be a natural fit. You have one person get the Ultimate Edition, and then anybody that plays at your table can be done for free. So it does cost little money, but the system is actually really easy to play. Any game that's set up for it. When inside of it, there's a bunch of automation that's in it. You can just drag leveled up characters on, and suddenly you're leveled up. For D&D, you can just click the dice rolls, and they all roll, and they give you even things like your rage damage being reduced as a barbarian and things like that are all coded in. So it became very simple and one less thing to worry about while we're in the middle of a game, which is why we use that.
Yeah, so I'm the one using the battle map. It's sort of interesting because like everyone's sort of saying like, oh, this is where our resources were, and weirdly enough, that's where my resources were. So it was made more sense for me to do an actual battle map than to do a VTT, because a lot of my source book material was on D&D Beyond, which doesn't have a VTT aspect to it, so I didn't want to purchase all those new things. I also have an excessive amount of miniatures, an excessive amount of terrain, because the home game that I've been running for 2.5 years, I've always had to do a camera for the battle map because Shannon and her husband live far away from me and couldn't come. The rest of the people were in person, and I was obsessed with terrain and these sorts of things. And so I've always had a camera set up for battle maps, and I always prepped for camera setups for the battle maps. So I had the resources, I had the knowledge already, so I was like, well, it's been working in these streams where they've been able to see it from remotely and enjoyed it and enjoyed the settings. So let's find a way to make the highest quality we can for that for a stream instead of just playing remotely with people. So I originally just had a second webcam, a second Logitech that just like looked down on the battle map. And then when we started streaming, I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna buy a cam link for my mirrorless camera that I use for weddings. It's a decent camera. It's high quality, and let's just use that. I've got a nice zoom lens, which makes it really nice to easily zoom in when the fight's a little tighter, zoom out when it's not so tight. I've got it all literally right here next to me. Got so many minis just sitting around everywhere. So it was like, I've already invested this much in minis. I'm going to use some minis.
I have to agree with you that minis are amazing, and I really am sad I don't really use mine anymore. When we did our first season of The Messengers, I actually made 3.5 isometric or 2.5D isometric views for all of my maps and made a bunch of little, almost like Final Fantasy looking characters so that I could have token-esque type things for people to play with. That was a lot of work. So being able to make my own means that if I need something, I can always have it for my games, which is nice. But I definitely miss the tactile feel of a mini, being out there on the table painting those. And
yeah, I would no doubt recommend using a VTT over starting to invest in a system that allows you to do really high quality battle map situations, because it is a lot of work, and it is it's extra things for you to think about while you're DMing. Because I've got a second laptop that runs the battle maps account, so that it can be live up here. It is very cumbersome, this setup, but there's just a really big satisfaction when you've painted a fresh new mini and it gets revealed on stream and everyone freaks out and is like,
oh my god, that's so cool.
But also it's really disappointing though when your players just circumvent an encounter and you're sitting there with your new mini and you're like, I wanted to show this to you all.
That's when you pigeonhole it into something else at random.
Oh yeah, exactly. Repurpose everything.
That's the one problem I have with the at-home versus VTT is just flexibility. You really have to have people willing to go along with exactly what you want to use those exactly as you have them set up. VTT does have that bonus in that there are groups out there that have released like map packs of 900 maps you can just get for free, and then you can just plop them in anytime you need them at random.
And to do that with a battle map is really expensive. Like I have a lot of Dwarven Forge, so I can do that. I can set up like 3 battle maps for 3 potential encounters and have them laying around, and easily just sort of pick one up and put it on the table and take the other one off the table. But it's really time consuming and it is really expensive if you don't already have the right things. Of course, you could just draw a map, but if you're using spending all that money to show a battle map, you might as well just use a VTT in that situation.
Yeah.
What are you guys planning to use, or are you using right now, Chaotic, Stupid, and Kayla?
So we're using Roll20. We've always used Roll20 because in the place where I live in the Netherlands, there's no nerd culture. Like, it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never had the chance to play in person anyway. So all of my experience has been online. I've been using Roll20 for 4.5 years nonstop. And it's where all my stuff is, honestly, because at the time, I didn't know about Fantasy Grounds,
Mm-hmm.
and I already started investing in Roll20, and at this point it's kind of a sunk cost. I'm in there. So that's what we use, and also I don't necessarily need a lot of unique features for my tabletop, because our whole setup is more based on like storytelling and role playing and stuff like that. Sometimes for a whole stream you don't see a battle map with us, and so it's really just there so that the players and the viewers can see, okay, this is where the characters are actually positioned in relation to the others. And so for a minimal setup, Roll20 is great because it's super simple to use. So that's what we use.
Nice.
For me, probably also Roll20, just because I've used it since it was created. I have tried things like Astral and Fantasy Grounds and Shard, which is a new one that's out. Which really excited about Shard, but I don't know that I could use it for live stream because I'm not versed in it at the moment. And with things like Beyond 20, which is a plugin for your Chrome, I can just use everything that I have in D&D Beyond with all the custom homebrew stuff, because I only ever do custom homebrew stuff, because why make it easy on myself? And just roll it and drop it into the chat for the group, including all of the loot and stuff they find. All of their characters normally sit in D&D Beyond anyways, because it's just so easy to make them in there. So probably Roll20, just because it connects so well with D&D and Beyond, and I have so many maps and tokens and things in there at this point.
Yeah, I mean, go with what works, right?
Exactly, and I think that's what it boils down to at the end of the day, is what works for your table.
Yeah.
And what is best for your group. I know for me, I avoid Theater of the Mind, not just because I like Theater of the Mind personally, but I know some of my players really need and benefit from a battle map of some kind. So I've played some games with just Theater of the Mind, and they usually go pretty well. But at this point, I'm so used to battle maps that I do have some trouble actually with Theater of the Mind a little bit as a DM. At least managing it. No trouble explaining it or describing the setting, but remembering, oh yeah, there was one more guy there that they didn't do anything with, and you're like, well, he ran away. I've decided now. But yeah, whatever works best for you is what is best.
He went to get reinforcements.
I have to say too, Theater of the Mind for me is something that I don't necessarily like. I have family members who have ADHD, and when you try to play Theater of the Mind with them, immediately they forget everything that was around them, because that's just something they have to deal with. And I know some other individuals really need that solidity to figure it out. Also, remembering that there's a box that's 5 feet tall by 5 feet, 3 feet from your character in front, that maybe somebody's going to use to vault over and attack XYZ enemy is easier when you can actually see it. For me. Yeah. So I'm a strong proponent of battle maps that people can see and can interact with, and that our audience can do too in the streaming community, because that gives you just a little edge, a little more visuals, a little more, oh, this is an interesting thing to look at than just listening, I think that's a strong thing. What do you all think about the idea as streamers of the artwork that you use for people, of entertaining through that rather than just voice? As a podcaster, people are already coming into it expecting to listen and to understand and to be told this story they can watch at any time. But when you come from a streaming position, you're more of an entertainer as well as just someone who's playing games and having people enjoy those experiences and those stories. So what are your thoughts on the art, on the battle maps, on keeping things visually stimulating for people in streaming?
I mean, I think it's there's also a really practical aspect to it, in that if you don't have a battle map and you're doing everything Theater of the Mind, someone comes in halfway through a fight, they're never going to catch up. right? And if a fight takes an hour or something, that's an hour of content that they can't enjoy. So from that perspective, for me, it's always been primarily a practical concern, in the fact that also what you talked about, you don't want to remember that there's this box that's like exactly there, because that prohibits you from making more complex, encounters in terms of environment. And I think that battle maps is such a great addition to just giving you the space to make something really complex, where the players can see what the complexities are and then navigate those, instead of half of the complexity being that you have to explain it to them constantly in the first place. So yeah, I am a huge fan of it, even though I love Theater of the Mind. But yeah, I think it's almost impossible to survive without it on something like Twitch, if you want to be attracting viewers from a practical standpoint as well.
Yeah,
I agree entirely.
Yeah.
I would even take it a step further than just battle maps, right? The visual aspect of Twitch is and live streams is the reason that maybe the audience for podcasts and live streams overlap, but the visual is why they come. So not just showing a battle map when it is a big fight or a big encounter, but maybe adding a visual element to that part that you're bringing the players into, you see smoke in the horizon, and as you get closer to the clearing, the outpost you were sent to protect is on fire, and showing that and describing that, and giving both the audience and the players a chance to react to that, adding in those visual elements outside of just an encounter.
Yeah, that's something that go ahead.
I was gonna say that's a very exciting aspect of some of the VTTs out there too, that can do more than a battle map can do at home, is that there are more and more of them coming out there now that have visual elements to them that are active, interactive. You can have a live battle map that has smoke rising and fire and rain falling down on it and things like that. Like Foundry lets you do some of those video plays. And there are some that are coming out relatively soon that'll let you drag and drop a smoke icon that'll come over and it'll just be there. So I'm very excited for that personally.
Yeah, that's something that could convert me to VTTs, is the dynamism of it, and the dynamics of the visuals is something that could, I do a lot to try to make mine as dynamic as possible. I have a little tiny fog machine for the battle map, got all of those little fun things, and I just get a kick out of those things. But other ways that you can visualize things, you mentioned, Luna, art. We commission art for all of the characters in our games, so that in our long-running games, so that people have, because you can get a lot from our descriptions of our characters, but to see an actual rendering of them is big, to help people connect to that character, remember that character, and come back to see that character. As far as, because you're so right about you're on Twitch because there should be a visual aspect to it. If you didn't have a visual aspect, you should just be a podcast. So things like battle maps are the obvious thing, but other things that you can do to make it interactive. I know Alex in our stream works really hard to try to make the overlay as dynamic as possible. Right now, that means that we have a somewhat moving background that changes with the time of the day of the adventure. And there's other ways that you can do that. He's also experimented with changing the settings in there. It's a little hard because he's still a player, so he doesn't always know what settings I'm going to bring in. But that little bit of visual dynamics helps people get a little bit excited. You're like, oh, they're doing the thing. That sort of thing. But also really encouraging, and I know not everyone plays for this, but I feel like if you're doing a stream, an actual play stream, more likely you do play for a lot of the RP. And really encouraging your players and yourself as the GM to emote a lot. And, we're not all obviously professional actors, but, doing little things, can help really boost people's connection to your character and help you feel more comfortable in your character's shoes. Especially when a player in chat can oh, look, they're brooding actively. I don't know.
They're brooding actively. Well, you can trick that a little bit too. You can get voice changers if you don't. I'm really bad at accents. I cannot copy anybody's. I try, and it always comes out sounding completely like something different. But you can.
You can change things up. You can get all.
Whatever you want to do. There are little tricks you can do that aren't necessarily that expensive, or even free sometimes. That'll help those. But the more dynamic you want to make it for your show, it's either going to cost you money or time, one or the other.
Exactly.
And when you're doing this for people out there, you have to be willing to put in that investment if you want to have any kind of return. If you want people to actually see it and go, wow, that's cool. I want to come watch that. I want to come see that. Like for me, I have a benefit that other people don't have in that I don't have to commission art because I do it myself. I will make all my character art. I will make my overlays. I will make intro videos. I will do all of that stuff that normally other communities have to reach out and have that done for them. So it's just a lot of work. I know this is plugging our own stuff, but on Dice Tyrants right now, we have a premiere of another show going on that I did the overlay for. It's a moving overlay. It's got a bunch of little pieces on. That's an example. I think that one took me probably like 16 hours of work to do, which if you're paying somebody for that, the average videographer doing that kind of stuff and rendering it all, it's between like $20 and $50 an hour. That's a lot of cost for something like that. You can find some individuals who will do it for cheaper. You can find some ways to get them simpler. You can buy pre-made packs online that'll just give you that little bit of flair. And there are other ways to do that as well. So anything visual, anything flashy, anything that gives an originality to your content that draws people in and says, okay, that right there, that's that character. That's the player of that character. And you just kind of visualize it better. That I think that helps any of the audience that's watching.
One of the things that we do on Wednesday nights, and I know, Sean, you do something similar on Paradise, is our overlays when we're actively playing. Part of our overlay has an image of the character with their stat block over it. So people can see, and it cycles through all of the characters. Yep. So people can see, okay, that's Evie. She's a ranger. She's level 3. Her strength is this, her dex is that. And it doesn't give any other information other than that stuff, but it's just nice because it's not like a super, it's an in-depth picture, but for the sake of the stream, it's kind of faded so that you can read what's over it. But it at least gives people an active, like, oh yeah, that's what she looks like.
Because we're not always describing our characters.
Right.
So if someone's walking in halfway through, it's nice. We have exactly the same thing. We have a cycling of each of the characters' representation. We have one extra slate that's just like partners, so people know who they can get discount codes for.
Yeah.
And then that block the battle map takes it up when we go into battle.
Yep.
There was
so I know I keep mentioning them a lot, but because I've dug into it a little bit, D&D Beyond's actually just made a connection recently to Twitch where you can actually have your character's sheets from your campaign displayed. Yeah. It's like a little box with the basic stats, and then your viewers can click on it and open up a view of the full character sheet to check them out and get a little bit more info on them.
More of that kind of stuff would be amazing. One alternative to that, if you're not playing D&D, would be to have links to like your own personal web pages for your streaming group or whatever that have a character sheet on them. You can just put in Discord at times.
Yeah.
So
the nice thing about the D&D Beyond overlay too is that it updates in real time. So when your players are taking damage or they have condition effects on them, it's all represented on the overlay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's something great. Can I go address a question that was put out there?
Yeah,
real quick?
Absolutely.
Dagta71 says, how do you handle copyright issues when it comes to images, to things like that? Commissioning your own stuff, will obviously always have you avoid that kind of thing. If you do, there are a lot of streamers out there that'll go and they'll use artwork from the books or from online that they find or from various other positions. And that can get you in trouble. It's not likely when you're incredibly small, but if the owner of that comes out, they can flag and have your content removed from Twitch, from YouTube, from everything. So it is important that you always make sure that you have the permission to use any of the materials. Some things don't have copyrights. Some things are in partnerships. Like Twitch has a lot of partnerships with D&D. So using their source images and stuff like that is generally going to be safe. But not if you're taking it from like a module somebody else created, or if you're just taking something from online.
Yeah, definitely. The last thing you want to do is just sort of raid art from Google Images or something like that. That's why if you go back and watch the very first episode of Critical Role, everything's blurred out in the beginning because they use some random art to represent the characters. And other things you can do, like we have, so like if you don't have the ability to commission a lot of artwork or a lot of assets, but you have a little bit of money you can use, I use a subscription to Adobe Stock art. that has a really amazing catalog. I also have 2 subscriptions to other licensing services that provide music, stock video, and stock art. And that's how all the music on Paradise comes from there. So we have got license for everything, and we don't have to worry about it. The service just lets you put your socials in, and they automatically take care of content claims.
Yeah.
And there's a few different services out there. Adobe Stock's a really great one. Envato is another one. There's a bunch of them that can give those to you. There's some. I mean, you can always go to YouTube and find no copyright, no royalty music that's on there, but you still have to be careful because that might be a mislabeled video. One thing that I would give to all of you out there as a gift, to anybody that's looking for just simple art that's non-copywritten, you can go to a place called Artbreeder. Can I share a link?
If you want to drop it in the group chat, we'll make sure, because only the mods are able to post links in chat.
In the group chat.
Yes.
I will do that.
Thanks.
Artbreeder is an AI that finishes pictures for people. And you can use things that are very close to like art style, like drawn. Some of them are close to actual faces. But all of those things really will just create an image for you. And you can use those in stuff. In our Vampire the Masquerade campaign, our GM Sanan used that for like a year and a half. And you can just make people change in that. Images change. Just adding what they call genes. Like you want to have a little longer hair, you want to have it be black, you want to wear glasses, you want makeup. You just use these sliders and it creates these images for you.
Nice.
Other than that, maps for battle maps, there's a lot of programs out there that you can use that have no content or no content locks on anything you make in them. Like Incarnate is great. For world maps and things like that, they're getting better at battle maps. They don't have my one big gripe is they don't have a click to map or click to grid, so you can't just like put down a wall in a block. But there's a lot of them out there that are. Dungeon Draft is one that's amazing.
Dungeon Draft, yeah.
That's a
And
really
you
cool
can
one,
make a map in that in like half an hour, and then you have it to use for anything you want.
Yeah, over at Paradise we use.
I will say.
Go ahead.
I will say for like images that are specific to systems like 5e or Pathfinder or anything, that become very familiar with if they have an OGL, which is an open gaming license, and what falls under that, because anything that falls under that, you, even if you're not on Twitch, if it's YouTube, you can feel more comfortable in using without getting dinged. Just pay attention to if those exist and what those cover. And if you go outside of that, be prepared if you get hit with it, because it might not happen right away, like was mentioned when you're small, but if it happens when you're bigger, they will go through every single thing you've ever done.
Yep, absolutely. For music, I would recommend, we use musicbed.com right now for all our music on Paradise. We used to use Soundstripe, which we don't use as much. I have Soundstripe personally for wedding videography, but MusicBed is a little bit more affordable than Soundstripe, and is a really great service. There's a lot of services out there, though, that you can use for music. And the good thing about using a subscription service is you don't have to pay per song like a lot of places do, so you can have like a huge playlist library that you just use, and you make sure you read the actual contract though for them, so you know exactly where you can use it and when you can use it. But MusicBed is the personal account is it covers YouTube and Twitch for as long as you're under a certain number of followers, which is pretty high, I found. So most services can use it pretty effectively.
All right, I'm gonna jump in here before we get going again because we need to take a quick break. It's already been our first hour, so we can definitely come back and keep talking about this. This topic is huge, copyright stuff. So I do want to make sure that we can come back to that, and we still have other questions too from chat that we can jump into as well. So I'm going to put up a quick poll in chat, and we're gonna take a quick break for 5-ish minutes, let our guests refill their drinks and all of that good stuff, and we will be back in just a few minutes. All right, we are back. There is a poll posted. If you haven't had the chance to answer that yet, go ahead. It'll be up for a couple more minutes. The question is, which do you prefer, Theater of the Mind or Battle Map? Currently, Battle Map is winning 16-3. So, so there you have it. But I'm always interested to know what people think. I had never actually used a battle map until I started playing on stream. So, even in person, it was all theater of the mind, except for occasionally when it was a really big fight and it would be like, okay, so this D20 is the guy you're fighting and you're the purple D6.
You're the penny.
We
You're the
used
penny.
to use those fish tank gems that are multicolored ones, or those little dice. They're the D6s that are like the super tiny ones. You get like 100 in a pack.
Oh, you mean like these ones that come in like a box like
my
that?
first game,
yeah.
those tiny ones too.
It's like, okay, so the ones are all the orcs and the twos
Yes.
are all goblins.
And you guys are the 6s, yeah. Those
You're-
are the teeny ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually just found this. I was going through my bag of tabletop stuff the other day while trying to take an inventory of all of my dice, and we used to use that for mimics. It came out of a Red Rose tea bag, a tea box.
We got the same one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
So, and somewhere I have a pink bunny just like it, not proportional in size. That used to be my daughter's miniature when she would play with us when she was very little. So,
Yeah, I will have to say I do miss in person, and I do miss the fact that I probably won't be able to do minis for a stream because I've been part of the 3D printing community since the very beginning.
Hell yeah.
Oh.
So I've had like printed minis, and I recently, right before COVID happened, printed off little treasure chests that come with inserts
Oh,
for
cool.
different rewards, and one of the inserts is a mimic.
Nice.
So
Ooh,
all of the
my.
treasure chests look exactly the same until your player goes and pops it open, and then one of them
Oh,
has
no, this
teeth.
one has a mimic.
That's
3D,
very
3D
fun.
printed minis is really nice.
Surprise
this
lobotomy!
worm is 3D printed. It's great.
Oh.
3D printing is a game changer for tabletop options when you're at home or when you can do, the battle map type stuff. It's amazing.
Well, and even
Other
if,
than when your extruder like gets all clogged and doesn't work, and suddenly you can't print anymore, and you're mad.
I'm going to do a shameless promotion for a good friend of mine who is currently 3D printing in between her actual project, which is 3D printing face shields for the medical community where she lives. She is, when she has to like do stuff to her, do test prints and stuff on her 3D printer, she's 3D printing. She's referring to them as cat D20s, and she's selling them as cat toys on Etsy. So
Nice.
I definitely may have bought a few. Okay, so let's dive back into some of the questions that we have. I am going to say we got a couple of questions that aren't specific to streaming. I'm not skipping them all together. I'm going to skip over them for now so we can stay on the TTRPG streaming topic. And then if we have time, we will come back to them. If we don't have time, what I have been doing is I post the questions that come in that we don't have time to get to on Twitter the next day. And I'll tag you all in it so everybody can have a chance to answer it. And it's also out there for the general community to check it out as well. So... let's see. The next one that we have comes from Shannon, actually. What advice for new TTRPG streamers do you have for RPing in front of a camera? I'm going to tell you right now, I am not the one to answer this question.
My advice for it would be to just let it go. Don't worry about who's... from the beginning, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of viewers, for one. So it's not like you're standing in front of an auditorium full of people who are all going to be judging you. Two, if individuals are watching you, they're not going to be judging you. You're fine. They'll enjoy you having a good time. So if you're doing that and you're giving a voice and you're being goofy and you're being fun and it makes people at the table laugh, and it doesn't matter what it sounds like, what you're doing, and you could find out that you're actually really good at it or that you enjoy it, and it will actually add to the experience you're having just by doing more of the RP with it. And I feel like from a streaming perspective, you'll also find that it's easier to do than when you're at home because you're doing it for an audience rather than just for your friends. And it starts to feel more endorphin rushy when people like it.
That's a very technical term, by the way.
Very technical.
I looked it up. It's in the dictionary and everything.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I agree 100% though. Like it's the letting go of it is the same advice you give to someone who's like, I want to try an accent at the table. It's like, all right, well, just as long as you're having fun with it, people are going to enjoy it, because a lot of the times people enjoy watching actual plays because they like watching people having fun. It's not always just about like, oh, you have an interesting story or an interesting overlay, or your battle maps are cool. It's a big part of it is just they just want to see you enjoying yourself, and the more you enjoy yourself, the more likely that the audience is going to enjoy it. Now, if you're someone though who really like wants to explore doing more with like the RP on camera and getting to you're someone who just really likes the idea of like acting out your stuff. A few things that I always recommend is, and it depends on who you are, like some people like to look at themselves while they're doing it because it makes them comfortable. Other people can't look at themselves while they're doing it, so just kind of like you can hide your camera, those sorts of things. We only have this spot to RP in, so knowing your space and knowing what you're doing, where your hands are, if you're trying to act out your spells in some cool way, or it's an emotional moment and you want to be in that moment, just know where your walls are. And a big part of being able to act in this space is posture too. So if you're trying to do different voices, like crunching down is going to change the way your voice comes out versus how it's going to come out when you're standing upright. How high or low is your voice coming out? Like these are all things that you can find plenty of like quick guides online about how to mess around with it to feel a little bit more comfortable. Because for me, I'm someone who's like, I want to be as much my character as I can be. So I like to get engaged in my little box.
It's also how close and how far you are from your microphone.
Yes. Yes. Mic checks beforehand are crucial.
Another thing that can help if you are in a streaming community and your producers out there, make sure they tell you where your space is. Because if you only have this, then if you're like trying to say something and talk with your hands and it's not showing up on camera, you're not going to know it necessarily, and that's not helpful either. So
yeah,
be friends with your producer.
And your producer may not always be your GM. So that's important to note.
Yeah.
Here, that happens to be the case, but as a general rule, there have been times when I've produced for another GM and that sort of thing. So
I'm always my own producer. It leads you to it's complicated sometimes, and depending on how much work you want to put into it, it can be problematic. I ran a one-shot called The Last Bastion last year, where in that, as people got injured, I would change the overlay to show their damage, and I would like shake stuff up, and I would change the color on things and change the music for those epic sweeping moments. So it's a lot of work, and trying to remember to do it and stream and control the
Yeah, I just run the music right now. One of the other players runs the actual rest of the production, and if I had to do more than that while DMing, I'd have a hard time with it because the music is distracting enough.
It is.
And you get obsessed with it. You're like, oh, I need to up the volume a little bit because it's getting epic. All right, wait, this is too epic. This is too epic. I need to transition slowly away from it.
Something bad is about to happen. I need to turn in that soft, sad piano music now so I can get everybody scared for the next few moments. Oh my God, your animals have all died on a spaceship explosion. Oh no.
They're in a tavern. We don't need epic battle music.
The sad music mixed in while you're in the tavern accidentally. That's another one when you turn the wrong music on and it's like the epic battle against the boss. Here comes the legendary. Oh, it's just ASMR music now.
Oh, carnival music. Great.
Carnival music. Yeah, we had that happen. There was a moment in the beginning of Vampire the Masquerade when I accidentally turned on something like super carnival, silly, and it's right in the middle of Sinan's like, villain talking moment. Everybody's just falling. It was so.
If you do licensed music, listen through the entire song before you decide to use
it.
Don't just listen to the first 30 seconds. Be like, that's how a vibe is. Otherwise, you end up like three quarters through, and suddenly it's jazz music, and you didn't know that was going to happen. That definitely happened to me once.
We had one where we have some cyberpunk style games that we played in the past. One of them we had before this most recent one that came up. We had this song that was just really kind of this techno doom beat, and it was fine. But it was a 6-minute song, and about 3 minutes through, this guy goes, "Yeah!" and like screams, and then it gets really loud. It's like, whoa, that wasn't what we wanted at all.
Kevin, you started to say something before. What were you gonna say?
I got swept away in the conversation, and I forgot. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, we trying to think. Sorry, totally got sidetracked. Okay. We're still talking about copyright stuff too. Yeah, I'm trying to think. We use, I can't remember what it's called now. But Ty said something earlier that is super important about like the YouTube music and stuff. Like you can do a search for royalty free on YouTube, but I've definitely done that before, and I've definitely gone and then uploaded something onto YouTube that has that music in the background, and it's like, there's a copyright claim on this, or same thing, there's a, we upload everything into podcast form, and it'll be like, you can't monetize this, there's a copyright claim, So we for this stream, we actually commissioned, my college roommate just so happened to be a music composition major. Weird how that worked out. And so I actually commissioned her to write the intro music for this stream, so that like we use it for this, it's in our YouTube, it goes into the podcast, we can use it anywhere because we own it. We own that song. So so it was great, but it's definitely not the most affordable way to go.
Yeah, if you have friends, if you have groups that can do any of your art, your music, and the more you can create for yourself, one, the more original that you are going to be out there, and two, the less you have to worry about it. But again, it is time, it is money. I actually I sang for my own intro video for Silver Shield. I did a rendition of God's Gonna Cut You Down, the one that was recreated by Marilyn Manson. I did that. I'm not proud of it, but I did it.
You did, and it was fantastic. I saw it.
But yeah, so you can make your own stuff. If you have friends that can do music, if you have little things, there are some YouTube groups that are actually all copyright free. There's a musician out there by the name of White Bat Audio. It's more modern stuff. It's not going to fit into fantasy themes, but you can find individuals out there who do that because they want that to happen. There's groups with no copyright sounds, like all of their stuff is okay to stream on Twitch and YouTube. There's a few out there, but you got to be careful. That's all.
Yeah.
Because it's best if you can acquire like the actual license. So like often with people who are just sort of like, it's all cool, that's great and all, but like tomorrow they could be like, nope, none of it's cool.
Yeah, this is all my stuff.
Yeah.
And then suddenly your entire catalog is demonetized.
Oh, that is
taken off stream or taken off of YouTube. So I get a lot of comfort out of the subscription services because I'm like, one, I know that they're vetted, and two, I know that when you read your terms, I know I have unlimited use of this song. I know with my subscription I have unlimited use. I know I could purchase the permanent use and get rid of my subscription if I wanted to in the future. There's a lot of comfort in that, and there are some really affordable ones out there that are accessible to if you don't have a really high budget.
This is a BBEG level evil idea. Somebody goes out there and gives copyright free like fantasy music, and then have all the D&D communities go and take it, and then 5 years down the road they just collect 1,000 copyright claims suddenly.
Right.
Let me just grab my notebook.
You want evil ideas? I've got them aplenty.
I may have already written up both getting ready to publish an all-bard one-shot.
Oh, yeah.
And also the rules for like a Battle of the Bands type homebrew universe.
That's awesome.
So let me just write this evil bad guy idea down.
There's a game out there that instead of combat, it's kind of like Pokemon. You have like these little creatures that you have, but instead of combat, they have dance-offs. I'm thinking, you could convert that to TTRPG. They don't need to kill each other. They can try to win by special maneuvers. I have a breakdancing spinning helicopter, move that I do, and it causes this much reputation loss.
Or it could be reputation gain. Anybody who
Gain,
gets
there
to
you
a
go.
certain gain level.
First one to get to 100 reputation win.
Guardians of the Galaxy makes much more sense now.
Yeah, dancing up in front of everybody.
right?
I've had more than I should have to drink.
So going back to Shannon's question too about the advice for TTRPG streamers, this actually sort of goes in with a question that Nekola had asked, and Ty answered it, but I'm going to put it out there anyway in case anybody else has the same question. It was answered in chat, and then Ty also mentioned it on stream, but I am not, like Sean, I'm not super comfortable doing voices, and if anybody heard me do voices, they would totally understand why. So I tend to, I RP more with my inflection, my, you know, like, maybe it's really sarcastic or maybe it's really whatever. So I tend to do that more, but I also have used voice changers before. I did a one-shot, actually with Ty's wife, who was DMing it, where I played a mouse folk. And so I was like, I'm not going to talk like this for the next 4 hours because I'm going to have a really sore throat tomorrow. So I used
Squeak speak.
Yes, it was squeak speak. And so I used a voice mod to like raise the pitch of my voice by about 1 million, so that it was just so much easier for me, because then I could talk normal, but it came through as the high pitched, you know, like mouse voice. So and I use I can't remember what you said you used, Ty. I have a voice mod installed on my computer.
Yeah,
I use a
also.
Yeah.
I use a Go XLR Pro, and it does quite a few things. I would add on to that, if it, like you had stated, trying to do a high-pitched voice for so long would damage your voice. There are 1,000,001 accents you can try to use out there, but don't do something that's going to be hard to do for long periods of time, or that are going to end up causing you to be raspy. I mean, even I do monster voices, like I was playing 119 the other night. It's just whatever, you know, you do all kinds of strange sounds and breathing.
Yeah.
At the end of the night, I'm coughing like all night long because of doing that.
Yeah, we have one of the members on our stream does essentially a Kermit the Frog voice. She talks like this all the time, and it's great. And he's weirdly very good at it being serious in a Kermit voice. Like there's serious moments where he's just like, and you're like, oh my, I don't know why. It's adorable and sad. But I guarantee his voice is rough at the end. And one of our producer's character used to do a really grisly voice, because he plays kind of a werewolf character, and he had to stop and pull it back a little because it was destroying his throat by the end of the night.
You just got to work with your GM so they change that somehow. We had a character named Ivar. He was a gnome in our first season of Messengers. He always talked like a really, really high voice. James was doing it for a long time, and he's like, I can't keep doing this. It's causing... I'm like, so your character grows 2 feet because of XYZ thing that occurs, and your voice deepens a little. He's like, oh, thank God, now I could talk.
You're looking to get into voices.
Sorry. Yeah, there's another cool thing you can do if you don't want to modulate your voice tone. You can pick certain words that your character uses often, or for example, they always use shorter words, and like that, if you just focus on little things like that, it will set a very distinctive tone for your character. And that's because as a DM, you know, I think we tend to have to do a lot of voices anyway, and you can't hit different pitches every time regardless. So I usually have like notes of, okay, this character will repeat certain words or phrases a little bit more, and that already sets enough of a tone that I'm quite happy with how that gets across. Because at the end of the night, if your throat is shot, then you know you're not going to get anything out anymore. So that's another way that you can, I guess, kind of cope with it. So yeah.
Yeah, dialect is a big thing. Like if you focus just in on dialect, like think of the US, right? Like between East Coast and West Coast and what's considered the North and the South, like y'all throw a little bit of y'all in there, and it's a very different vibe than if you're speaking from like a different area. So just even switching between that, even if it's just, you know, you as the DM having to talk to yourself, because let's be real, we've all been there where we've had to play NPCs talking together. Just switching up the dialect between them is easier to slip into, and is a lot easier on your voice too. Like I did choir for 10 years, and yeah, you can do high pitched if you want to. That's not going to be great for you after hour or two there. But also, like, while I would say session 0 is really important for that, because you can kind of play with what the extreme is and then like dial it back to a comfortable level during the session 0.
Yeah.
Session zeros are vital to streaming actual plays, so that your players, just so your players can feel comfortable in their character shoes before they even jump into. For Paradise, we did extra sessions beforehand with everyone, just so that they didn't do their accent for the first time when we went live.
Yeah.
I would argue that sometimes session zeros aren't necessarily needed, depending upon the group, the dynamic, if you've already been playing with them for such a long time, and if they've been working on getting these characters for a long time. And sometimes you have session -1 and session -2 and session -3. We had a couple of campaigns that we wanted to make sure were air ready when we first started in this thing, that we just could never pull the trigger on for like 2 months. And the players, by the time that came around, it was like, I'm not really having that much fun. We have all this content. Nobody's ever going to see it. Nobody's ever going to hear it. We make in-jokes about things nobody's ever going to see. Nobody's ever going to hear. So making sure you're not overdoing that, I feel personally is important. I do find a place for that absolutely necessary when you have new people, when you want to make sure they click together, when you're using a new system, when you're doing something that's out of the ordinary, for me.
Yeah, Wolves, you're going
No, I
through
absolutely
that right
agree
now,
with that. Well, for the show that is starting up next Tuesday, 8 o'clock, what we will be, we did our session -1 last week. We're doing our session 0 this week, so that we are air ready when we go into Tuesday. And one of the things that I found, and going back to the voices and how everything works, my character is actually going to be using 2 different voices. And the reason is because of the interactions and what he is trying to portray, and how he's trying to get through. I'm not going to give too much away for it, because I want everybody to hear it on the shows that are starting at Tuesday, 8 o'clock for Star Wars. And but it is those little things that'll also be able to build into your character. Maybe your character's voice changes as your character changes too. Mm-hmm. And so when you do get that player at the table that wants to do that really high pitched, "Oh, I'm going to talk like this the entire thing," I absolutely hate that, as do most people at the table. And if you start talking like that for a couple of hours, you're toast.
Yeah.
You're going to try to go to work the next day and you're going,
Yeah.
But let your character progression also change how you come across. And maybe even your rate of speech, the type of words that you use, all of that changes with the character. Read the table too and see what works with everybody else.
I would also state that if you do use a common voice at your table, if you're ever feeling off, if you're ever like starting to get a cold, if you've got a rasp or something like that, don't force it either. And people will understand and you won't hurt yourself. I tried doing a lot of Western style gravelly voices in our session 1 of Silver Shield, and I had like strep throat at the time. By the time the end of the night was, I was like, okay, so you go and do this, give me this role, please. By the time, it's just no good. People will understand.
The other thing too, along with kind of what both of you are saying, is you have to think about the fact that you're streaming it. So is this a voice that people are going to be willing to listen to for that period of time? 2, how does it come across when you're streaming it? Because the way that you hear it and the way that your team may hear it, like in your call, might be one way, but the way that it comes through on Twitch and to your viewers, it might be muddled or muted or something like that. So sometimes not overdoing it is best in that regard as well. On top of not hurting yourself, you also want to make sure that people can understand what you're saying and be able to listen to you.
Especially when using voice changers as well. There are a lot of them out there that if you try to do it, you might be able to understand it in Discord with other people when the voice clarity is at its peak. But when you're broadcasting it, that little bit of change and suddenly it just sounds like mechanical noises and nobody can understand.
Yeah.
It's also why I encourage my own players to do this, but also I try to do this a lot because, like you said, we do often get into those moments where the DM is talking with themselves, and it's really hard to switch between accents. Sometimes, whenever I try to learn a new accent, all my other accents tend to start becoming that accent, which is a huge problem. So I incorporate a lot of body language, like I said before, into character portrayals so that it's easier to understand looking at me who's talking. than just the accent. I'll try to differentiate the accent as best I can, but there's only so many variations that you can do on the fly. But like, if they know that this character talks and they kind of talk like this and they're really close to the mic, and then the other character is always like this or something, anything small is just a good representation of like, oh, that's that
character and personality through body language, and that is great. You bring up another point that is pretty valid to me. That's something I want to talk about, is the GM playing the game with themselves. Sometimes it's going to be important for you to have an engagement with your NPCs to each other, but I find it personally better if at all times you can try to avoid that. Have your NPCs engage with the players, have them make the decisions, have your players be the focus. Because there are GMs out there that'll have like, oh, I've got 5 NPCs in this scene and they're all having this courtroom battle and they're all talking to each other, and then an hour passes and your players, you're like, all right, it's your turn, and they go, what?
Yeah.
What's happening? I don't remember. I've been sitting here for an hour doing nothing. What's going on?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, also for your own sanity.
Yeah.
Yes, too.
Yeah.
I mean, talking to yourself. Some people are really good at it, but it always feels so awkward.
Okay, so Pat66, hopefully you're still in chat. And this is a great question too. Do you need any overlays for the stream and any particular streaming software? I would say a software that works. That's a good one.
Streamlabs or OBS work great for it. Personally, I adore the idea of overlays because you can give your stream personality that way. You can differentiate if you have multiple streams. Like, we have a bunch of different games we run every week, and if they all have the exact same overlay, somebody came on and watched, it gives each one of them personality. If you know a rudimentary ability to use any kind of art software like GIMP, which is free, you can make your own overlays just by putting an image and then cutting out boxes and making a transparency and then just putting your cameras behind that.
Yep.
It's not hard to do. But it is expensive to do if you want someone to make your own custom overlays, because depending on what the vision is, it could take hours and hours and hours of work. It's sometimes better to pick up a pre-made, which they sell. Everybody's going to have them, though. It's not going to make it universal, unique to you. But you can do that, or you can just make your own.
It's another place where those subscriptions to stock art is very helpful.
Yeah.
All of the Paradise overlays are manipulations of stock art that we turn into very nice looking overlays, and you incorporate whatever logos you want into it. I think they're pretty necessary. Like, you don't have to have an overlay to run a stream, but I think in the long run, an overlay, while it seems like such a minimal thing, it's part of the experience of the viewers. And it's like, it's like trading cards. All the trading cards, you've got your nice little window that has the art, and then you've got the overlay around it, and that's part of the experience. And I, because realistically, like, you think about it, it's like, if I didn't have an overlay, well, everyone's camera could be bigger, we could see more of them, but then they feel like they're just watching your Zoom call.
Well, it'd be watching a Zoom call, and there's more information, there's more visual information you can put on an overlay for something that somebody's going to be doing, like who they are, where they're from, what their character is, who you are, what the show's name is, all that kind of stuff that can tie into it. And I feel like production quality is one thing that makes it there's this math involved in how will I become a little bit more of a popular streaming group. How will we gain notoriety? How will we be noticed by others? How will we get above the crowd? You could be on there with nothing. If you have a cast of personalities that's amazing, that could get you pretty far. But there are a lot of amazing actors out there. There's a lot of amazing and funny and interesting individuals in this sphere. And you need something that says, okay, this is who we are. This is what we do. This is our unique brand of this. Come watch this because you want what we have here. And I think overlays are one part of that equation.
Yep. I think, so for example, I know I've mentioned this multiple times, but Ty actually did the overlay for this stream. And so I think just being able to have a way to sort of say, like, this is my vision. Like, in this case, Tales from the Tavern has a fairly static overlay. It doesn't need, it's not one that needs to have multiple different windows and be able to show a map and then not show a map and that sort of thing. So I was lucky in that regard, but I was able to sort of tell Ty, like, you've seen the show, kind of what we do. And I said, but I do want it to have a little bit of movement. So he, illustrated this window that has a little kind of flickering light behind it, that just kind of helps sell the tavern feel of it. And I don't need to do this stream. Like, we could just do this stream and show the Discord call, because that's really all anybody needs to see. But in this case too, our channel has a partnership with Critical Hit Cookies. We have a partnership with Arcane Spectacles. So we have a little window built in so we can show that repeatedly on this stream. And then Decider, who DMs our Wednesday night game, built all of the overlays for that one using, I believe, GIMP and doing all of the work himself. So he was able to do all of that, and he can then manipulate it as he needs to, because he developed, instead of having one overlay, for example, this one is literally one picture with a couple of other little things stacked on it. He can then manipulate each individual section. He can move an entire camera frame and not just a whole screen. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on that. Wolfsblood, do you know what Atomic is doing for your stream?
I have absolutely no idea what is going on for our stream, and the artist is definitely not on this show right now. That is doing work for the Star Wars stream. This starts in 9 days, Tuesdays at 8 p.m.
Hey, has anybody heard of this Star Wars campaign and that amazing artist that did some art for it as well, too?
It is kind of strange, though. Coincidentally, there may be a portrait that needs to have some hair removed, because
oh no.
Life happens.
Life happens. Well, send it over my way. I could fix it if that other person doesn't help you.
Yeah.
There may be some character art going up on Twitter this week too. Little birdie told me.
So when it comes to settings, I had been answering a question for Pat 66. What do you recommend as the minimum dimensions of the overlay? Because other streams, other groups and individuals sometimes have, small, crowded, squished. Honestly, if you have the ability to make your players as large as possible with minimum space for overlay stuff without completely destroying all of it. If you take up the entire space, like a 1920 by 1080 window with images, you could just put cameras there and just have a little space with stuff around it. But you want to leave like at least 10 or 15% of your screen for any artwork and custom stuff and that unique flair. That's what we do for narrative screens, when you're just having people talk, when you're just doing the role-playing scenes, when you don't need a battle map. And we would recommend over at Dice Tyrants that you have a battle map screen too you can switch to. Because if you can switch between those two scenes, you can show everybody your faces, you can be upfront and personal, and then when the nitty-gritty happens and you need to start making rolls and fighting, you switch to another screen where the battle map becomes the big thing, so that everyone can watch and see exactly what's going on. And that battle map should take up like 60% of your screen with the players all around it.
Yeah, it depends on how much you have on your screen, and scene. This is where scenes are pivotal and helpful. We're trying a new thing on Paradise in our Monday night show now, where Alex has done a lot of work to create a bunch of scenes. And what we're doing now is, if it's an RP moment that is pretty much exclusively two characters talking out of maybe 4 or 5, we now transition to a screen that just has me and those two players. And if someone else comes in, he has a scene where he can bring that person right in if necessary, and can pull us right back into the full group, or bring us down even just to me and one person, in case there is a scene that just is going to exclusively be that person, so that the other players don't have to feel like they have to be on while they're not really on. So like they don't have to feel like someone's looking at them when they might be, maybe they're checking their phone here and there, and just reduces the amount of time where someone's on screen where it might look like they're distracted. but also helps increase the size of the portraits for those people who are RPing in that moment. It's a lot of work to do, but I think it's something that's been working really well so far.
That's that trade again. If you want to have a quality stream, you got to put in the work. There's a bunch of different things you can do. Something that will always make it look better, that will always make it smoother, that will always make it more likely that somebody's going to want to stick around and watch because they appreciate the production. It just requires more time.
All right. I'm going to jump to another question. Let's see. So this is a great one. Sanctum Cosplays wants to know, how do you balance making the game fun for your players and making the game fun for your audience?
Who wants to start?
Well, I can start, but I think someone already kind of spoke about it earlier, where someone said, people come to watch you have fun. So I think, you prioritize the players because it's their joy that the audience would experience. So when your players are having fun, you can already hope, I think, that your audience will experience the same thing to a certain degree. And then, there are things to make the stream more interactive and things like that, I think, to up the ante even more. But yeah, definitely I would say prioritize it for the players and make sure that they are telling the stories that they want to tell and having a good time, and that will shine through on the stream no matter what.
I have a lot to say, so I'll let everybody else go first because I have a few things.
I agree with what you were just saying, Kevin, about that. And I think one of the biggest compliments any of the streams that I've ever been on playing a game is when somebody said, hey, I came to check you out for the first time and I stuck around because it reminded me of playing D&D in my best friend's basement, and for me, I was like, that's it. We've arrived. We can quit now, because it felt comfortable for them. It felt like a home game for them, even though they weren't playing. And that was a really pivotal thing, because we weren't afraid to stop and laugh and, kind of pause for a minute and, have a random one-off side conversation for 5 seconds and then dive right back in. And I super appreciated that feeling. And I think that goes right along with what you were just saying about making it fun for your players.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
All right, well, I'll jump in then since everybody else is being quiet. So a few things. I've already talked about making sure that the games are more directed towards your players, making sure that it's not about the story necessarily, and be willing to be flexible and bend with that. Something else that comes for making the experience better for your viewers is watching your content, making sure that things that you're doing are not, you don't want a huge amount of dead air. You don't want a huge amount, coming from a theater background as well. There are certain things you always want to do. You always want to be entertaining in one way or another. So if there's ever something where someone's going to have to make a decision as a group, do it offline if you can. If it's like, okay, how are we going to get to XYZ? And you have an hour of people sitting there just kind of waffling, but nothing ever actually happens. It's not always that fun to watch. Shopping episodes, as an example. Another thing that can be fun if the engagement is there, if there's something interesting that happens. But if it is, I want to buy 50 feet of rope and I want to buy, 200 rations. And while I'm there, I'm going to look around and say, hey, do you got any magic weapons in the back? And nothing really interesting happens. That is boring for your viewers and would be better off like, well, I need to go shopping and get these items. But you've prepared for that before your stream. So you've already got it done. So you stop into the store, you pick up a new sword, your armor's repaired, you've gotten a few rations, and you're traveling out on the trail now. Here's what's happening on the trail. Because you didn't provide that. You don't need to do that if you're not going to provide here's the weird wily shopkeeper who can transmute himself 15 different ways and is always just kind of there and he's funny and he's entertaining. Another thing that I would say is, and again, to iterate the point, focus on the players, make them stars in your shows when we're on Twitch, when we're streaming. They're going to be building a following. They're going to be building individuals who like their character, who root for them, who want them to succeed and who want them to win, and who are going to get sad when they're sad, or if they die, they're going to break down. It's all of those things need to be fostered as much as you can. a GM can get some of that too, but you're not likely to get the same style of stardom because you're everything. You're not just, this isn't the character everybody really wants to beat that bad guy. And the last thing that I would have to say is make it so that your audience can contribute in some way to your games. Even if that means potentially derailing some of what you're doing, if they're able to come in and say, you're losing, I can help. Here's a reroll. I'm going to give it to you with bits, or I'm going to give it to you with channel points because I'm here and I watch all the time. And now they win, and that was because of me. And the audience is sitting there, and everybody on the game is like, "Thank you so much. You saved us. We won. Oh my god!" Like the other night with David Telstra and 12 rerolls that happened right at the end of the game. That right there, when your viewers are no longer just people that are watching but are now part of your game in one way or another, will bring them back. We'll let them know that they're appreciated, that they actually are someone that we want to have here. And then you meet some really awesome people that way, and you can't let that community die. You're here for them, they're here for you, and you need to try to be there as much as possible. But don't go too far. Don't allow the stalkers to come to your house.
Yeah, just to add a little bit onto that, I agree with pretty much everything everyone said. You're having fun. People tend to enjoy watching you. But yeah, there's the real balance is between pre-planning and active improv, because people really enjoy watching active improv in some of these situations because they like to see a player on their toes. So you want to make sure that you're pre-planning what needs to be pre-planned. You want to make sure your players are, if there is something that would take too long, if they played it out in character, they do kind of use the chat function or expedite it. This is a place where I think the GM becomes an editor, where my perspective is purely from my video production work in the past and thinking what can be snipped out, what can be cut out, what can be, and it's why if dead air starts to come in, that's where the GM needs to bring something into that space to continue things moving. You need to know when to say, now we'll jump over here if the party's split up. And that is going to help the flow really well. And it's going to help your characters, because if your characters are split up and your players are stuck and they're in a conversation, they might not always know where to end it. And they might not always know, and they might be waiting for you to end it sometimes. So having some editing instincts is really good as a GM on an actual play, particularly.
Another thing to add to that too is, again, we're talking about those little moments that are kind of boring to watch people play. One of those things is the slog. You're walking down the trail. You've got 3 days to travel. Which one of you is going to feed the others? Which one of you is going to blah, blah, blah? Which one of you is going to make the camp? Which one is you? It's well, if there's nothing interesting happening on this journey between X and Y, then why are you streaming it for people to watch? It might be something that you want to add to give gritty realism to your game, but unless you're with a certain crowd of individuals that like watching that, it's going to do nothing more than just drag out some time. Another thing is as a GM, if you have a wonderful idea and you implement it and it comes off poorly and it doesn't play out right and it slows things down, be willing to let it go and move on from there.
Yeah. Players don't bite. Don't force them to bite. Just throw it on the editing floor and maybe you can reuse it later.
Another thing, if you happen to have a campaign and you intend on having it end at a certain time, like you have seasons, say you want to lay out specific seasons for your stream, don't rush it towards the end. If it has to take an extra episode or 2 episodes or 3, as long as everybody has the time to do it, try to let it naturally end, or it will feel railroaded. It will not feel good. It will not give people a satisfying ending to a show that you're setting up for another season. And learning where to cut those seasons so that your players can get a break, because everybody needs one now and then to avoid burnout, is very important.
One last thing I just want to add to kind of the idea of cutting things. It's very easy when you get in actual plays to hand wave a lot of things because you want to get to the action. But if you do it too much, suddenly your characters aren't characters. Suddenly your players are not connecting as characters, because there's sometimes that one watch on that slog is when character A discloses something to character B and they become more connected or something like that, or plots out how they're going to betray the party at the next town. Those moments need to happen too. Otherwise, you get to level 10 and you're like, wait, we don't even know each other as characters, and we don't even care about each other. Why am I even traveling with you? And I know there's that inherent, like, well, you are traveling together because we're playing D&D. But if the more you can make that actually part of the story and not feel forced is essential. And sometimes when you hand wave something away, you just lost out on your audience's favorite scene. So it's something to be very careful about.
It's another point where the GM really needs to listen to their players and find out what their players' wants and needs are. If someone says, can I have a scene here in a minute? I want to talk to XYZ. You need to make sure you give them that room.
Yeah.
But also, don't let your players overdo it. There are some out there that really love the limelight and will sit there and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk.
Have seven different endings to their conversation.
Yeah, and then half the show is over and nobody else has gotten a chance to do anything. You have to avoid that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say I've been thinking a lot, like, the difference in media. I mean, we've mentioned several times, like, the difference of actual play and something like Twitch or live stream, but, like, just the difference between, like, they could go watch a TV show too, but they're choosing to watch your live stream. Right. So, like, what of that difference can you take advantage of? Like, to even make maybe some of the scenes that are a little bit of a slog but are needed a little bit more interactive, and at least engage the audience, even if it maybe is a little bit mundane for the players. Like, take that shopping scene and have the audience contribute to it somehow. Like, make them decide what the shopkeep has available and roll with it if it's something insane.
Totally.
and bring that together.
The more you can bring your audience in, the better they will appreciate it. And the more likely it is that you're going to have to get really creative as a GM and potentially as players. On my new show, on Roll for Chaos, I literally am going to allow people to donate bits to roll on my Chaos table, and then I just have to determine what happens to my players after the fact. So that maybe it'll go away, but it'll probably stay for a while until we figure out how bad it is.
All right. Well, we unfortunately are out of time. It's been 2 hours already, believe it or not. So what I would like to do is just give everyone the chance. I'm going to go around again. If you could all remind us of where we can find you online, where your streams either are or will be starting, and when, if you know when that's going to be. And hopefully we can all come in and check you out when you guys get underway. So I'm going to go in reverse order. So Sean, we're going to start with you.
I am Sean. I am from Paradise RPG. We stream our flagship show every Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Advantage in Paradise. You can find us on all social medias at Paradise RPG. Paradise is spelled like a pun, Paradice. We liked it, we kept it. Now our entire brand is tropical. But you can find us there. We have a lot of fun. We have a long-running campaign, so it's we had a whole season 1. We decided to take a break, move the story a little bit further along. You can, if you join our Discord or look on our socials, there is recaps for season 1, so it's really easy to jump in right now. We've only done 1 episode of season 2 so far. The VOD is going to be up very soon. We're just, like we talked about tonight, we're just dealing with a few copyright claims that are going to be resolved. But check it out. We also have 2 other shows that are consistently run. One is Relaxing in Paradise, which is on Thursday nights with myself at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I paint minis, play games, craft new terrain, draw maps, hand-drawn maps. Pretty much, it's just a sneak peek into the background of actual play DM's process. And then Sunday nights, we have a recap show called Tim and Shannon Power Hour, which happens right before this at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, where they recap the previous episode, they speculate about what's going to happen next, and sometimes they have variety segments where they do different things. And then every month, at least once a month, we have a one-shot in Paradise where we bring in people from the community so that we can showcase them. And typically it's run by our Paradise crew, Stefan, and sometimes those are charity streams, and it's a lot of fun. So we have a lot of content. We have a lot more content coming out in the future, so feel free to check us out, Paradise RPG. You can also find me anywhere at Odo_Sean on Instagram, Twitter, wherever. Happy to hang out.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming and sharing all of your perspective with us. Ty, we'll go to you.
Hey everybody, I'm Ty Burris, Loud Even Star on DeviantArt, Twitter, and RF Chaos on Twitch. You can actually catch us at RF Chaos on Twitch on March 11th, I believe, at 8 CST, when we will be running Dreams of Silver and Stone over on Dice Tyrants, Twitch TV/Dice Tyrants. I'll be running Sparrow's Space Pirates game on March 19th, I think. Let me double check that date so I don't give you the wrong one. Yeah, March 19th at 7:30 Central. And I am the creator of the TTRPG Aether and Steamworks. The 1.5 edition can be found on DriveThruRPG. It's a D20 system. If you play 5e, if you play Pathfinder, it is really easy to pick up and learn, and it's better, in my opinion.
But he's not biased at all.
But I'm not biased. Yeah, and I'm an artist and producer all over the place. If you ever need commissions, let me know, and I'll see what I can do for you.
All right. Well, thank you, Ty, also for coming on and sharing your knowledge with us. Kevin, Chaotic Stupid, let's go to you next.
Sure. Right, so Chaotic Stupid, we're on Twitch at twitch.tv/Chaotic Stupid Media, and on Twitter, I am super active on Chaotic Stupid Co, because media is too long. So that is Chaotic Stupid CO. And yeah, I'm running some stuff on Twitter around the tabletop TV hashtag. So for other smaller streamers, if you guys want to connect, definitely hit me up, because I am, keeping a list, and we're hosting each other, and in the hope for TTRPG's Discord, connecting and supporting each other. So it's a really incredible community. So, and anyone's welcome. Any creators are welcome. So very proud of that. Also, once a week on Sundays, we run at 6 p.m. CET our D&D 5e game. And on Mondays, I typically do a world building writing stream. Either I'm writing on one of my one-shots, or I'm doing map making or world building, writing, that sort of thing. And a lot of kind of co-creation with the chat, which is a lot of fun, getting input and ideas from the community on, how my world can be improved. So definitely hope to see you there.
Excellent. Well, thank you for coming on, and hopefully we helped answer some of your questions, and you've got a whole network of people now to reach out to if you have more. So
definitely. Thank you.
Yeah. Excellent. And thank you for staying up very late to hang out with us.
No problem.
Kayla.
So you can find me on Twitter at JustThinkingK. If you use the Linktree link that's getting dropped, it links to everything, including my Ko-fi if you want to commission me to design custom things to you, because I do freelance tabletop design and writing, a lot of things on the DMs Guild, a lot of things on DriveThruRPG, and my website itself. If you want some fun, freaky things like Battle Baguettes, don't ask. It happened. I have not figured out the details of where the stream will be yet, but if you follow me on Twitter, that will be probably where I spam that once it's figured out. And don't be afraid to tag me on Twitter, too, if you have any questions about anything.
Awesome. Well, thank you, and good luck getting your stream up and running when you're ready for that. So, Wolf's Blood.
It's a me, a Wolfie.
It's a you.
So, I think I will go ahead and just take this opportunity to once more shamelessly plug our new Star Wars Edge of the Empire campaign that will be starting next Tuesday, March 2nd, beginning 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I am, surprisingly enough, part of the cast, and I will be playing a doctor by the name of Andros. I will actually be cosplaying my character during the stream, so that ought to be pretty fun. And, yeah, Ty, we're gonna have to talk about getting my character art updated, because
fix that hair.
yeah, work out a little tough.
I'll just bring it up here real quick. I'll just work on that right now. Don't worry about it.
Let me know what the damage is, and I'll get that taken care of.
Well, Wolf's Blood, thank you so much for coming to hang out tonight. It's always a pleasure to get to chat TTRPGs with you. And again, I am Gamer Mom Luna. This is Tales from the Tavern. This is our Sunday night stream every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, where we come and have a nerdy roundtable discussion. Generally, it's much more broad topics about TTRPGs and cosplay and video games and all kinds of stuff, but we really wanted to hone in on a special topic tonight. Because we had been getting a lot of questions about streaming TTRPG content, and wanted to connect with people who may have those questions. So we may do this again in the future as well. So, be on the lookout. Follow our Twitter, which is at Shared Experience. What is it? Shared EXP RPG, because experience is too long. And you can also catch us here Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern for our Pathfinder First Edition campaign, 50 Shades of Crimson. And as Wolf's Blood said, starting on the 2nd, our brand new Star Wars campaign with a whole new cast and DM and everything. It's going to be great. It's being DM'd by Atomic Zero, who I am very excited about watching this campaign. So hopefully you'll all come and hang out. You said that's at 8 Eastern as well? Wolf's Blood?
That will be at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Excellent. And start looking for news about the characters and the stream dropping on Twitter on Tuesday. It'll start dropping. So, so you can see all the character art that actually Ty did. And, so I think that about does it for us. I will post all the questions that we didn't have time to answer tonight on Twitter tomorrow. So make sure you're following on Twitter if you want to see what people have to say about the stuff that we didn't get to tonight. And I think we are going to go raid this lovely little channel we know called the Dice Tyrants, who are premiering a brand new campaign tonight. So we're going to go say hi to them. So say hello, drop some love, all that good stuff, and have a very wonderful evening.